Hello, guys and gals. Welcome to the podcast.
Today we express our thoughts with you at home.
And today, that thought is, well, us. It's our season finale, episode 5 of season 1. Season 2 will be starting tomorrow. I'm not sure what the topic will be. Yeah, it's
Woo!
very exciting. We finished our first season of our podcast. So today I thought we'd talk a little bit about ourselves, why we started the podcast, and what our future plans are. Now, I know we kind of covered this in our very first episode briefly at the beginning, but I thought we'd go, I guess, just a little more in depth about it, just to give you a little more information. But don't worry, we'll go back to our normal podcast schedule tomorrow, and we'll also be introducing some new ideas and video types in the future, like chatting with friends or talking about what's new in the news. So stay tuned for that. So, Bradley, do you want to go ahead and start off by giving us a little information about yourself?
Well, thank y'all for tuning in again. If you're a recent or reoccurring visitor, and if you're new, thanks for coming. Nice to meet you. I'm Bradley. I'm the podcast partner, and Carter. This is my partner in crime. And we started this podcast after we started talking about politics at school frequently. And this one day we had a really big conversation. And we was like, you know what? It was nice talking like this, like adults. So we should start something out of this. Carter hit me up real late at night with an idea. He comes to me. He says, let's make a podcast. I said, okay. So that's how it all got started. Um, as you'll see, I'll like to make jokes during the podcast. And I'm usually on the more of a chill side. I don't really like to get in arguments. I don't like to start nothing, I should say. But how about you, Carter? Tell us about yourself.
Like Bradley said, I kind of thought up the idea of this podcast. And to be fair, I was the one who started the discussion on the bus. Like, I had read something on Twitter, I think it was, and we started talking about it. And Bradley thought it was fun. He commented while we were talking about it. I think it was with another friend. We were talking about it. He was like, this is really fun. We should do this more often. And so when I got home, like, I thought about it. And funny story, I had already had this, like, OBS thing set up because I had the idea of doing a politics podcast because, a couple months ago, I got into politics and, reading articles and watching videos and, learning or whatever. So I asked a couple of my other friends before this, and they pretty much all either ignored me or declined because they thought it was dumb or just didn't want to, argue and, be under the pressure of having to record. But me and Bradley just kind of stumbled upon the, topic of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict on the bus, which is what our first episode was about, actually. So we talked about that and thought it was a good idea. So I was like, hey, hit him up. You want to start this podcast? And I already had most of it set up, so all I had to do was fix the Twitter account, create a YouTube channel, and recorded our first episode.
Yeah, it was really that simple. I'm real glad we started. It's a very fun concept. It's good to talk like adults once in a while.
Yeah, it makes you feel like an adult, kind of. Especially when you're, like, talking about, stuff like politics or opinions that a lot of the other kids, either wouldn't have or just don't care about because it doesn't directly affect them. But I don't think they really understand how, in the long term, it will affect them and why it's kind of important to learn about it now so you don't have to, deal with it in the future. So, what I think we should get into now is our plans.
Wait, Carter.
Oh, go ahead.
Before we begin, I would like to make an announcement. We are now on Spotify, Pocket Cast, Breaker, Radio Public, and Google Podcasts. Go show us some love on there, please.
Yes, sir. I'm very happy that we're on all those platforms. Uh, we've grown quite a bit in the last day. Not that we're any at all popular, but the first day we started, we had one view on our first episode, and since then I think we've had about uh, 20 or so combined on all of our platforms, which, isn't a lot, but it's pretty good, especially for starters who are only on, their first season, fifth episode.
It is a step in the right direction, if I do say so myself.
Especially since we're on, Spotify, which is a big deal. Now, it's not super hard to get on Spotify since they're, letting people on their platform for free. But it kind of, makes you feel good because, your favorite artists are on Spotify, your favorite podcasts are on Spotify. So it feels kind of cool to be sharing a platform with them.
It's just expanding, showing more and more. So, in case you are not able to get on certain platforms, you can get us on everything else.
Yeah, I'm very glad that the wide audience can view our podcast because if you're on Apple, you have Spotify, of course, and you also have Apple Podcasts, which we're working on getting our podcast on there. We'll be giving out updates hopefully sometime during season 2. But it was also a really big deal to get on Google Podcasts because that's like one of the only ways that Androids or people with Androids can listen to their podcasts is with Google Podcasts and Spotify. So now that we're on both of those, for anybody who has both or may only have one, that's a pretty big deal.
Yes, it is. And expect a lot more from us. Got some big things coming. Got some cool video ideas, cool podcast ideas, some guests. So, and plus, end of another great school year, summer break. Let's all be grateful for that. And so, expect some more from us. Anything you'd like to add, Carter?
Yeah, I want to get into, I guess, a little bit more detail on what's coming in the future. So, you mentioned guests. So, a couple of our friends, I don't want to name any names right now in case people from the school are listening to the podcast. I guess you'll just have to wait and be surprised. Um, they're people within our close friends group, and they don't necessarily have a big interest in politics. I think it would just be fun to have them on here, talk about some, news, and have a good laugh. If it's, laughable. A lot of the stuff that's going on right now is not the most comedic, which is very obvious by most of the topics we've covered because they're not that funny in
Not a
most
joking
aspects.
matter.
Yeah, not most of them are not a joking matter. They're pretty serious. But hopefully, with these people on, we'll have a little bit more fun, and it'll be more fun for the people at home, and more engaging. And so I hope that when they come on, more people will be interested, and I hope that more guests will be interested in joining us. Um, I think that'll be pretty great and pretty fun.
All right, and so let's get into what you came for, politics. Let's start off with COVID-19. COVID-19 is recently coming to an end. Less and less cases showing up every day, which everyone I hope is grateful for.
Yes, I'm very grateful for that. Now, not necessarily coming to an end, but it's definitely slowing down. I see what you're saying. In America, at least. America, not necessarily
With
is
the
low
recent
on
COVID
cases.
vaccine,
Yeah,
it
with
is
the COVID
helping
vaccine.
tremendously.
It is helping a lot. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's gone. People are still, getting it, and America is one of the biggest
Yes,
countries that
wear
has
your
it.
mask, keep social distance, do
Yes,
not
yes.
spread it, and be safe.
I think the CDC published something about how adults who've been vaccinated can start cutting back on wearing their mask in public places a little bit more, since a lot more people are getting vaccinated, and it's been tested and proven that it helps your immunity to getting the virus. But I still wear my mask because I haven't had my shot yet, which leads into our next topic. Uh, they published some sort of I don't know if it was an article or some kind of announcement, but they are planning on letting people in my age group, Bradley and I's age group, get the COVID vaccines. So that'll be great for us. Hopefully, by the time we're in high school next year, we may not have to wear the mask as long as the majority of the school students have been vaccinated. Um, it should be away with that, and a lot of our other friends will be there, which means a lot more people who are interested in politics and who may want to be on the podcast. Um, I also think that I don't think that COVID is going to be gone for a while per se,
I feel
but it's slowing down a little bit.
this is my opinion is ever going on. Know how ever so often you have to get your recurring flu shot. I feel this is how COVID is gonna become just another flu push off. I do never feel like it's gonna be gone because no matter what, the virus is everywhere in the world right now, except cold climates, as in Antarctica, Greenland, and some areas in Greenland, and North and South Pole. But other than that, if you live in a more populated area, some of the main countries, and still stay safe. It is not gone by any means necessary. It is honestly getting worse in some countries, but in America, thank God, it is going away. Slowly but surely.
Yes, we're very happy to see that. America, like I stated earlier, has been one of the hardest hit countries because early on we kind of didn't really bother with it. We didn't prepare. We did a terrible job preparing and dealing with it during the virus. Um, you know, it's gotten a little recently. Better, sorry. With our vaccines getting rolled out, people have, I guess, started to agree with the guidelines somewhat, and we've seen it slow down a bit, and so we're reducing our regulations, I guess. But that could also mean that if we start cutting down, cases could go back up. So there's always a potential that we're gonna have to do it again. We don't know for how long, but there's always that possibility.
Yeah, and it has recently been announced that Biden announces U.S. will share more vaccines globally. So wherever you live, wherever you're from, hopefully y'all be seeing the vaccines coming and coming sooner and sooner.
Yeah, I think I read about that on Twitter where they're you know giving out vaccines to other countries. I think recently India had a big COVID spike, and they might have had a natural disaster. Maybe I don't really follow the news very closely, um, but I think something happened over there regarding COVID, and so the fact that the U.S. is distributing more vaccines, um, is always it's always pretty good.
Yes, love to see it, love to see it. Um, let's get into a topic that you probably wouldn't see much on your average news station. Conspiracy theories. Carter, start us off.
Um, we were gonna talk about some a particular person involving conspiracy theories, but I think
Go ahead and say the name.
all right, we'll say the name. Marjorie Taylor Greene. Oh Lord. All over social media, all over news outlets for being completely. I don't even. Is there a word to describe it? Stupid. Is that maybe
I don't
ridiculous?
think that's the best word to say, but
Maybe
I
anti-Semitic would
think
work.
that she is, she's definitely not the sharpest pencil in the box. Um,
I don't think she's a pencil. She's like a stubby crown.
yeah, let's, yeah, stubby crown, stubby crown. How about, Carter, you tell us about some of the things that the, let me rephrase that. Tell us about some of the most ridiculous things that she has said.
Well, it's so funny. It's hard to keep a straight face. Um, she's obviously an avid believer of COVID conspiracy theories, which are absolutely ridiculous. Um, I believe there was an obscure conspiracy or something that she may have tweeted or made a comment about with Jewish people, with laser eyes causing the California forest fires. I don't know that for sure, but that's a very strange rumor, or even something that you definitely said tied to your name. I don't think anyone involved with state level politics should ever be not only mentioning but believing that. That's absolutely ridiculous.
That first of all, that is terrible to blame a religion for a natural disaster. That is insane.
Yeah, it's very anti-Semitic.
A Jewish laser monster. Let's not scroll past that. That is crazy.
Good lord, a Jewish
And
laser
she
monster,
says
man.
this on live TV.
I swear, she's something special, and not the good kind.
She very much is. She's not the good type of special. I don't think she deserves to be in office. I think she should deserves to be in a
Yeah,
psych ward,
yeah,
if
no,
we're all being honest
100%.
here.
She should be booted out of office, dishonorably discharged. That's
And
what they
these
call
are
it in the NFL.
Biden's, these are our president Biden's words. Marjorie Taylor Greene sinks to a new level of dumb.
That's that's absolutely crazy. The fact that the president of the United States has to say that about someone in their government is just absolutely ridiculous. Needs to be removed. She needs to be kicked out of there as fast as possible. Not only has she been, you know, doing that, I don't know Bradley's thoughts on this, but I'll say this for anybody that's there. There was one woman that I think she works across the hall with, who has a daughter who is trans, and she has a flag up there because she's proud of her daughter or whatever, and she works there. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, not shouldn't be bothered by it at all. She works across the office, always in her office, apparently posting on Twitter about Jewish laser monsters, but that's beside the point. Um, she was just she decided to post a Twitter video of her putting up a sign that was directly, being hateful towards that other congresswoman, I believe it was, or her coworker or whatever it was, just trying to start drama on Twitter for unnecessary reasons. It was just absolutely ridiculous. Uh, there was also, on top of that, I saw this tweet about the Green New Deal and AOC, and how Marjorie Taylor Greene had uh, she had asked for a debate, I think it was, about the Green New Deal. Which, if you don't know what the Green New Deal is, it's a bill proposing better options for the environment, like drastic changes to the way we get our fuel and our power. Uh, a lot of those, which would be, have harsh effects on us right now, but would most likely overall be very, very much better than how it is right now, for the climate and for stuff like that. But, anyways, uh, Marjorie Taylor Greene challenged Representative Ocasio Alexandria Cortez to a debate on the Green New Deal, but AOC ignored her many times because she knows, get this, we should never play chess with a pigeon. Sorry, they'll just knock over the pieces, poop on the board, and strut around like they won. That's absolutely hilarious.
Yes, and if that doesn't convince you to get her out of the office, there is a video all over the internet. You can find it where she considers people with Down syndrome an offensive slur, which I'm not going to use.
I would assume the
I'll
R
give you
word.
a hint though. It it rhymes with she farted.
Okay, that's what I thought. Not a great thing for
After she
a way to
says
put
it,
it.
she says not to belittle anyone with Down syndrome, but that's what they are.
That's why are we letting people in
Her
power say
words.
this? Why are we letting people who say this in power? That's either way.
I think a pigeon playing chess is smarter than this woman, if we're all being honest here.
uh,
No
honestly,
offense to the
honestly, a
pigeon.
pigeon playing chess who was drawing with a stubby crown would be smarter than this woman. It's a strange analogy. You mix some stuff together, but it works. Whatever. Anyways,
Yeah, so
yeah.
we cannot emphasize the amount of dumb that this woman
The
has.
sheer amount of stupid. I'm having a hard time
I
phrasing
guarantee
words
you,
just because of the
if anyone ever knocked on her head, it would be hollow.
100%. It would make.
As always, thank you all for joining. We're going to have to cut it short for personal issues. See you next time.